She fetched his coffee for 2 years. Tonight she's threatening to slit a Russian mob boss's throat. Gabriel Castile, New York's most feared syndicate boss, thought his secretary Clara was just a frumpy, invisible girl in an oversized cardigan. But when he forces her to attend a high-stakes Mafia sit-down, everything changes. She takes off her thick glasses, sneaks in a titanium stiletto blade, and speaks fluent gutter Russian to dominate the room. Who is the ghost sitting in his office? The terrifying answer could start a full-blown mob war. Let me set the scene for you guys, because this is absolute cinematic gold. Imagine the fanciest dining room in New York going dead silent. Every single fork drops. The city's most ruthless power players are literally choking on their expensive wine. Why? Because of the woman at the entrance. She is an absolute weapon in emerald silk, rocking a look nobody knew she could pull off. Bossman Gabriel Castile, the scariest mafia don in the city, is squeezing his whiskey glass so hard it's about to shatter. The frumpy, totally invisible secretary who fetched his coffee for 2 whole years. Poof. Gone. In her place is a straight-up ghost from a rival bloodline he swore to wipe off the map. Let this be a simple lesson. Guys, never judge a book by its cover, because the quietest people usually hide the deadliest secrets. Now, you gotta understand something about Gabriel Castile. This guy does not make mistakes. Zero. He runs his underground syndicate with the exact same terrifying precision he uses for his legit shell company. During the day, he is sitting on the 65th floor of his Manhattan skyscraper, ruthlessly destroying rival corporations. By night, he is literally dismantling illegal smuggling rings. He is all sharp edges, rocking a jawline that could probably cut through solid glass, and a tailored designer suit, hiding a loaded weapon on his hip. He demands 100% perfection from every single person in his crew. But for the past 2 years, there has been one massive, glaring glitch in his perfect matrix. The woman guarding the front door to his entire empire. Enter Clara Hayes. Honestly, by regular standards, she was painfully forgettable. In a mafia headquarters absolutely packed with supermodels in stilettos trying to catch the boss's attention, Clara was just a shadow on the wall. She always wore these massive, boring sweaters that swallowed her alive, and the most painfully dull skirts you have ever seen. Throw in some ridiculously thick, aggressively ugly glasses that made her eyes look massive, and messy hair tied back in a tight bun, and you get the picture. No makeup, zero perfume, just a head-down workaholic. She made herself practically invisible on purpose, and ironically, that is exactly why Gabriel kept her around. Sometimes, blending into the background is the absolute smartest survival tactic you can possibly use. Clara was basically a robot, and I mean that as a compliment. She never flirted, never wasted time, and most importantly, she never asked questions when Gabriel stumbled into the office at 3 in the morning with bloody knuckles and a busted lip. She would just toss him an ice pack, pour him a heavy glass of ridiculously expensive scotch, and calmly fix his schedule. She filtered out all the fake friends and bootlickers with this completely flat, emotionless voice. Suddenly, Gabriel's voice barks over the intercom, completely shattering the silence. He demands her in his office right now. Does Clara panic? Nope. She grabs her notepad, pushes up those terrible glasses, and casually strolls right into the lion's den like it is just another Tuesday. Absolutely ice-cold behavior. Gabriel is standing by this massive window, just glaring down at the streets of Wall Street. Like a supervillain, you can literally feel the stress coming off his shoulders. Sitting on his fancy wooden desk is a torn open envelope, and and he does not even look at her when he starts barking orders. He tells her to cancel his flight to Geneva and clear his entire schedule for tomorrow night. Clara doesn't even blink. She just jots it down and asks if she should delay his big corporate merger. Gabriel says the merger can wait because they have a much bigger problem on their hands. He finally turns around, shooting lasers at her with his eyes, and drops the bomb. Viktor Ivanov has just touched down in New York City. The plot is officially thickening, guys. For the first time ever, Clara's pen actually freezes for a split second. It is such a tiny mistake, just a micro glitch in her flawless system. But Gabriel has eagle eyes and catches it immediately. He frowns because Viktor Ivanov is no joke. He is the absolutely brutal boss of a massive rival faction. If this guy is in town, it means the shaky peace treaty they had is totally falling apart. Gabriel explains that Ivanov wants a face-to-face meeting over dinner, and he is bringing his new fiancée to make it look completely harmless to the feds. Clara immediately bounces back from her slip-up. She tells him she will book a VIP room and lock down the security layout. She sounds totally normal again, but we all know she just had a serious internal panic attack. Clara asks if he is bringing his usual arm candy, this girl named Isabella, who is basically just a pretty face with rich parents. Gabriel shoots that down instantly. Isabella is out of town, and even if she was around, there is no way he is bringing her near a predator like Ivanov. Gabriel is super stressed now, pacing around and running his hands through his hair. He complains that Isabella would get way too drunk, run her mouth, and turn into a massive liability. He needs a partner for this dinner who will not embarrass him, will not try to play weird mind games, and definitely will not start screaming if guns suddenly come out under the table. He leans way over his desk, casting this huge, intimidating shadow right over Clara. You can feel the tension building. He stares her down and says he needs someone who actually knows how to keep their mouth shut. Clara just blinks those giant comical eyes at him and offers to call up their private agency. They have highly trained, low-profile escorts for these exact crazy mafia situations. But Gabriel shuts that down hard. His voice drops into that super smooth, completely terrifying tone. He says Ivanov buys off agency girls for fun, so he needs someone from his absolute inner circle, someone whose loyalty is unquestionable. He locks eyes with her, and the silence in that room gets so thick you could cut it with a knife. For the first time ever, Clara actually sounds a little freaked out as she says his name. You and I both know Gabriel has already made up his mind, and he takes no prisoners. Clara tries to play dumb, but Gabriel is not having it. He flat out tells her that she is coming with him. Tomorrow night, she is his date. Clara literally backs up, holding her clipboard to her chest like it is a bulletproof vest. She hits him with the corporate speak, saying this is absolutely not in her job description, and she does not have the looks to pull off a VIP Mafia dinner. She warns him that Ivanov will think it is a massive insult. But Gabriel is completely done playing nice. He pulls out this heavy, solid black titanium credit card and practically throws it across his fancy desk. It slides right up to her fingers. He orders her to buy a dress and fix her hair. He is essentially commanding her to step out of the shadows and into the main event. He tells her she does not need to look like a runway model. She just needs to look like she belongs next to him and act as his hidden lookout. Clara is legitimately panicking now. Her knuckles are stark white, and her heart is absolutely pounding out of her chest. Guys, she spent 2 whole years building this totally fake, boring identity to stay hidden. She buried her dark past under cheap sweaters and terrible glasses. Sitting across from a dangerous guy like Ivanov could ruin everything. She begs him to reconsider, but Gabriel hits her with that terrifying, quiet voice he only uses right before he destroys someone. He tells her it was never a request. Another huge life lesson here. You can hide from your past for a long time, but eventually, reality always comes knocking. Be at my penthouse at 7 tomorrow. Do not be late. His words echoed in her head as the doors of the Oscar de la Renta boutique opened with a soft chime. Clara stepped inside, instantly feeling like she had crashed a billionaire's party. Smelled like white lilies and ridiculous wealth. These dresses cost more than a new luxury car. A thin sales clerk named Genevieve slithered over, scanning Clara's mustard cardigan and busted flats. She raised her eyebrows like Clara was actual trash. "May I help you?" she asked, dripping with fake politeness. "Look, guys, here is a quick life lesson for you. Never judge a book by its cover. The girl looking like a broke student right now is a ticking time bomb about to turn this entire Mafia empire completely upside down." The retail worker hits Clara with the ultimate snob treatment, telling her they don't do clearance racks. But our girl Clara doesn't even blink. She has endured literal mob hits, so a snooty cashier is nothing. She calmly reaches into her beat-up tote bag and pulls out the ultimate flex, Gabriel's heavy titanium black Centurion card. You and I both know the vibe shifts instantly. The worker goes from freezing cold to completely desperate, offering private rooms and champagne. Let me tell you a little secret about life right here. True power never has to raise its voice. When you hold all the cards, you don't need to throw a tantrum. Clara just coldly orders an outfit for a high-profile dinner, completely ignoring the bubbly. Genevieve asks about colors, and Clara instantly drops a bomb. Emerald green, guys, this is wild. Emerald green is the signature color of the Romano Mafia family, her bloodline. The exact same family that got wiped off the map in a massive Chicago bloodbath 3 years ago. She has been hiding in plain sight, working for Gabriel Castile just to stay breathing. Wearing that color is playing with fire, but the Mafia princess inside her refuses to stay buried. The life lesson here is simple. You can change your name and you can change your city, but you cannot outrun your own DNA. If she has to sit at a table filled with Russian mobsters tonight, she is going to wear her family's armor. Genevieve scrambles to get the dresses. The stylist takes one look at Clara's mousy disguise and says they need to fix the tragic hair before even looking at the dresses. Clara hesitates, staring at her fake reflection in the mirror. She is rocking oversized glasses, a super tight bun, and baggy clothes that completely hide the fact she trains like a professional assassin every single morning. She thinks to herself that for just one night, she can drop the act. You see, guys, sometimes the biggest lie we tell is the one we wear on the outside. But the truth always wants to come out. She pulls the pins out, and this insane waterfall of heavy chestnut waves cascades down her back, totally changing her face. Genevieve is absolutely speechless, but Clara is not even done yet. Clara rips off those thick tortoiseshell glasses and tosses them on the vanity. The stylist actually gasps out loud. Without those awful lenses, Clara is packing these absolutely lethal, piercing amber eyes and razor-sharp cheekbones. The invisible secretary routine vanishes into thin air, leaving behind pure, terrifying elegance. Genevieve is totally losing her mind and asking why she hides such incredible bone structure. Let this be a lesson for everyone out there. Sometimes people hide their shine not because they are insecure, but because they are protecting themselves from a world that wants to steal their light. Clara just freezes her out, ordering her to bring the dress with this cold, aristocratic mafia boss energy. 2 hours go by, and the glow-up is absolutely legendary. Clara stares into that mirror, and for a split second, she is genuinely terrified. The woman looking back is not Clara, the quiet assistant. It is Clarissa Romano, the Mafia heiress. She is wearing this jaw-dropping Oscar de la Renta gown made of dark emerald silk. It plunges right at the neckline and hugs her waist before splitting open up the left thigh. It is pure, lethal perfection. Guys, the lesson is that you can dress up a tiger in sheep's clothing, but the second you take it off, the claws are still there. Her hair is perfectly styled into these sweeping vintage Hollywood waves, looking like a total retro siren, ready to absolutely wreck someone's whole life. They hit her with a subtle smoky eye and a deep crimson lip that screams absolute danger. She finally looks exactly like the sole survivor of a massive crime syndicate. Right on cue, her phone buzzes with a text from Gabriel demanding she hurry up. Clara takes a deep breath to lock in her mindset. She steps into these towering black Christian Louboutin heels, rocking that iconic red sole to match her lipstick. Then she grabs a sleek little clutch. But get this, it holds her phone, her lipstick, and a custom titanium stiletto blade. The takeaway here? Always be ready to protect yourself, because looking gorgeous won't stop a bullet. She steps right out into the cool Manhattan night air, fully weaponized and looking flawless. Down on the curb, a completely blacked out armored Maybach is waiting. Gabriel's top muscle, Matteo, is chilling by the door, smoking a cigarette. Stick with me, because this reaction is gold. Matteo hears those heels clicking, turns around and literally drops his cigarette right out of his mouth. His hand instantly twitches toward his hidden gun. It is pure instinct, guys. He senses a massive predator in the area and totally forgets he is supposed to be a professional. He breathes out a holy mother of God. Let me tell you, when you carry yourself with absolute confidence, you command every room before you even speak. Clara just gives him this tight, mysterious little smile and hits him with the smoothest good evening. Matteo is completely malfunctioning, just nodding like an idiot while he rips open the heavy armored door for her. Clara slides into the dark back seat, where Gabriel is nursing a glass of expensive bourbon and staring at his tablet. He is wearing a jet black tuxedo, looking like the literal devil himself. Without even looking up, he starts complaining that she is 2 minutes late and giving her a hard time. But then, he finally looks up. Guys, the tablet literally falls right out of his hands and hits the floor. The big bad Mafia King is stunned. The lesson here is that timing is absolutely everything. If you want to make an impact, you let them get comfortable, and then you completely rip the rug right out from under them. The tension inside that Maybach shoots right through the roof. Gabriel Castile, the most ruthless boss in New York, completely loses the ability to speak. He is just staring, taking in the red lips, the emerald silk, the leg, and those crazy amber eyes. Clara drops her fake sweet voice and hits him with this low, sultry Mafia princess tone she has not used in years. She casually asks if they are going to the restaurant or just sitting in the car forever. Gabriel gulps hard, his jaw tight with sudden, raging jealousy. Listen to me. You cannot control who your heart reacts to, no matter how tough you think you are. He is feeling insanely territorial over a woman he thought was just his boring secretary 10 minutes ago. Gabriel is struggling to keep it together and barks at Matteo to drive. As the streetlights flash through the tinted windows, Gabriel is sitting there stiff as a board, completely losing his mind. For 2 whole years, he treated this woman like a filing cabinet, just totally invisible. Now, all he can focus on is the pulse beating right above her crazy plunging neckline. But Clara, she is ice cold. She does not fidget. She does not adjust her dress. She just sits there radiating pure, untouchable queen energy. The big life lesson today? True confidence is completely silent. While Gabriel is internally freaking out, she is barely breathing, sending this massive jolt of electric shock straight down his spine. It is a total power shift. Over the roar of the engine, Gabriel leans in and whispers that she has been playing a wildly dangerous game. He wants to know who taught her to hide her true self so well. Clara does not even blink. She stares right into his soul and tells him that survival is the ultimate teacher. She hits him with a formal Mr. Castile, but it sounds like total mockery coming from someone who looks like absolute royalty. He lets out this dark, frustrated laugh, admitting that if he knew she looked like a secret agent, she would never have gotten the job. Folks, the lesson is that keeping your cards close to your chest is the ultimate power move. Gabriel is finally realizing he has been sitting next to a ticking time bomb for years. Clara claps right back, telling him it is a good thing she kept her ugly glasses on. Her eyes flash with this incredible defiance right as they pull up to Le Bernardin. Matteo is still mentally recovering, but he manages to open her door. Clara steps out onto the pavement like a total jungle cat. Gabriel buttons his tuxedo, his internal predator alarms going off everywhere. He offers her his arm, and the very second her bare skin touches his sleeve, Gabriel's muscles completely lock up. The simplest lesson you can learn from this: physical chemistry does not care about your little business plans. It hits you like a freight train. They walk up to the doors where Gerard, the super snobby restaurant manager, is waiting for them. Now, Gerard is a guy who serves celebrities and actual royalty every single day without blinking. But when Gabriel and Clara walk up, you and I can see the man literally short-circuit. His professional smile drops for a full second before he recovers. He bows, calling Clara completely breathtaking. Gabriel is not having it. He throws his hand right onto the small of Clara's back and orders Gerard to show them to the private room immediately. The heat of her skin through that thin silk dress is driving Gabriel absolutely insane. He wants to throw his jacket over her and hide her from the world. A quick lesson to wrap this up. Sometimes the things you try to hide the most become the things everyone else desperately wants to claim. Gabriel and Clara stroll down this dark hallway toward the private salon. Most people would stare at the expensive chandeliers, but not Clara. Gabriel notices her eyes darting everywhere. She is mapping fire exits, sizing up the busboys, and checking if a heavy brass vase could bash a skull in. She is literally casing the joint. Gabriel squeezes her waist, sweating bullets, wondering who this woman really is. They push open the oak doors into a deadly room. Viktor Ivanov, an absolute tank of a Russian mob boss with a scarred face and a tight designer suit, sits right at the head of the table. You and I both know the lesson here. The quietest people are usually the most dangerous. So always pay attention to the person checking the exits instead of the fancy artwork. Next to Victor is his fiancée, Katerina, rocking so many heavy diamonds you know her neck hurts. Behind the boss are two giant hitmen, eyes totally dead, hands also hovering over their hidden pieces. Victor is blasting this huge laugh, knocking back vodka. But the second Gabriel and Clara step inside, the laughing drops dead. The silence is thick enough to cut with a knife. Victor just stares. His icy blue eyes drop off Gabriel and lock dead onto Clara, his jaw literally hanging wide open in pure shock. Katerina instantly feels the vibe shift, narrowing her eyes in furious jealousy. Honestly, the life lesson in this wild moment is that flashy diamonds can never buy genuine loyalty. So never base your entire self-worth on someone else's fragile attention. Today, you and I are going to unpack this absolute masterclass in Mafia drama. Even Victor's massive security guards are shifting around like they just stepped on hot coals. Gabriel is radiating pure, unfiltered territorial anger. He pulls Clara right up against his side, basically flashing a giant warning sign that says, "Back off." He hits Victor with this icy apology for being late, his voice sharper than a blade. But Victor is a total creep. He puts his drink down, eyes glued to Clara, and hits them with the greasiest smile you have ever seen. He actually has the nerve to say, Gabriel upgraded his usual company. It is a massive disrespect right out of the gate. Always remember, the way a person looks at the people around you tells you absolutely everything you need to know about their true character. Victor jokes that Gabriel's ex must be crying into her drink right now. Gabriel totally ignores the bait. He pulls out a chair for Clara and flatly introduces her as his associate before sitting down across the table. Victor rolls the word associate around in his mouth like it is a rare luxury item. He tries to pressure her, asking what an exquisite associate actually does for a mafia boss. Clara does not even blink. She hits back with this beautifully calm, totally fearless voice, saying she keeps his operations running flawlessly. And then she drops the hammer. She handles complications. It is such a massive boss move. Victor throws his head back and barks out a laugh, acting like she is making a cute joke. It just proves that underestimating the quiet ones is the fastest way to get yourself absolutely wrecked in life. Victor leans his massive arms on the table, calling Clara a woman with fire, and warns Gabriel that there better not be any complications tonight as they discuss the Baltimore ports. The fancy waiters bring out 3 courses of 5-star food, but they might as well be eating dry dirt. The tension in this private VIP room is so thick you could cut it with a chainsaw. Gabriel is doing his best mafia boss diplomacy, pushing back hard against Victor, wanting a bigger slice of the shipping money. But honestly, Gabriel is totally distracted. Every single time Victor shoots another greasy, disrespectful look over at Clara, Gabriel is fighting for his life not to pull out his piece and absolutely ruin the expensive wallpaper. It is a harsh reminder that keeping your cool when someone pushes your exact buttons is the hardest, but most important, skill you can ever master. Clara is out here playing chess while these guys play checkers. She is eating tiny bites, looking totally elegant, but tracking absolutely everything. Gabriel notices her casually move her water glass, just enough to use the reflection to check her own blind spot. She is literally watching Victor's goons pass secret hand signs to each other. She is swimming in a tank full of hungry sharks and acting like it is a day at the beach. Meanwhile, Gabriel gets straight to business. He tells Victor that demanding 40% of the docks is completely out of the question. Gabriel reminds him that his union guys only listen to Castile money, not cheap threats from rivals. Victor's smug smile instantly vanishes, turning into this incredibly cold, reptilian glare. This right here teaches you that true confidence does not need to be loud. It just needs to be highly observant. Victor fires back, claiming Gabriel Krulsprue is getting soft while his own guys are shedding blood on the concrete. He threatens to burn the docks to the ground if they do not get that 40%. Then, out of nowhere, Victor's fiancée Katerina decides to chime in. She swirls her wine and drops this incredibly catty remark about how Gabriel should just stick to wearing nice suits and bringing pretty girls to dinner. Huge mistake. Gabriel freezes with his steak knife in hand, and the room goes absolutely ice cold. He stares dead at Katerina, and you can practically see the violence brewing in his eyes. But right before he snaps, Clara gently dabs her lips with her napkin, puts it down, and leans right into the line of fire. It goes to show that letting your ego talk for you usually puts you right in the crosshairs of someone way more dangerous than you. Stick with me here, because this is where Clara goes absolute savage mode. She looks right at Katerina, and her voice is super sweet, but sharper than broken glass. She compliments Katerina's expensive vintage necklace. Katerina totally falls for it, puffing out her chest and bragging that Victor bought it in Paris. Then Clara drops the nuke. She purrs about how romantic it is and says the diamonds almost distract from the track marks on Katerina's left arm. Oh my word, the absolute destruction. Katerina goes ghost pale and grabs her arm in a total panic. Victor snaps his head toward his fiancée, looking furious and completely humiliated. He slams his giant fist on the table, calling Clara insolent. Honestly, it is a brutal life lesson about throwing stones from a glass house. If you are going to insult someone, make sure your own closet is completely empty first. The fancy glasses on the table are literally shaking from the impact. Victor's goons immediately step up, sliding their hands into their coats for their guns. Gabriel is completely locked in, his hand already on his piece under the table, clicking the safety off. He growls at Victor to sit down, bringing that heavy boss energy. But Clara, she is an absolute menace. She does not flinch. She does not back down. She just locks her amber eyes onto this terrifying mob boss, and suddenly her whole vibe turns incredibly lethal. Without missing a beat, she tells him to order his dogs to drop their weapons, but the craziest part is the way she says it, leaving the whole room stunned. It teaches you that true power is not about who yells the loudest, but who can look pure chaos dead in the eye and absolutely refuse to blink. Clara did not just speak Russian. She spoke flawless, native Russian, using this incredibly brutal gutter slang that only the absolute top-tier Smosk Syndicate members even know. Even Gabriel is shook, because he knows he could never fake that accent. Victor instantly loses all the color in his face. You can see actual, genuine fear in this ruthless gangster's eyes as his brain scrambles to figure out who this woman really is. He loses all his swagger and croaks out, asking who she is in this terrified whisper. Clara does not hold back. She calmly promises him that if his guys pull their guns, she will slice his neck with the hidden blade in her purse before Gabriel even gets his weapon up. This is a brilliant reminder that you should always keep your greatest strengths hidden until the exact moment they can do the absolute most damage. Clara flips right back to English without missing a single beat. Her hand is completely rock steady as she picks up her wine glass. She lays down the new law. Victor is only getting 25% of the ports. He is going to leave the unions alone, and he needs to teach his girl some basic manners. She takes a casual sip of her red wine, telling him he can either take the deal or try his luck making it out of the restaurant breathing. Victor is literally gulping in fear. He looks over at Gabriel for help, but Gabriel is just sitting there, hiding his own massive shock behind a total poker face. Gabriel smartly stays quiet, letting Clara run the show because he knows better than to interrupt an apex predator at work. The big lesson here is when someone on your team is absolutely cooking, you just get out of their way and let them work. Victor is so rattled, he literally chokes out his agreement, waving his shaking hand to make his goons back off. Clara flashes this super warm smile that is honestly chilling because it does not reach her eyes at all, and politely asks if they should order dessert. Gabriel finally lets go of his weapon under the table. He is just staring at her, realizing her whole nerdy secretary routine with the ugly glasses and quiet attitude was a complete top-tier lie. She is a lethal, ghost-level operative who just folded a Mafia boss like a cheap lawn chair. And she has been operating right inside his inner circle this whole time. He leans in close, catching her scent of vanilla and gunpowder. It just proves that the people who appear the most harmless are usually the ones hiding the absolute biggest, world-shaking secrets. You and I are going to look at this together and see how the dynamic flips completely. Gabriel whispers in her ear with this incredibly dangerous tone, promising a very long talk about who she really is once they get home. Clara ignores him, but Gabriel catches her hand shaking just a tiny bit. That unbreakable assassin facade is starting to crack, revealing a woman who is completely trapped. Now they are riding home and the rain is absolutely smashing against the windows of his Maybach, matching the crazy tension inside the luxury car. His driver is gripping the wheel for dear life, totally terrified of the dead silence coming from the back seat. This is a prime example of how running from your true past will always eventually catch up to you, no matter how brilliant your disguise might be. Gabriel is sitting like a statue, literally burning a hole into the side of Clara's head with his stare. He is buzzing with this insane mix of anger, pure shock, and this intense attraction he cannot even deny anymore. He watches the city lights light up her face, realizing that his boring, invisible secretary is totally gone. In her place is this cold, hyper-competent operative who just verbally destroyed a Russian mobster in his own secret language. Clara just stares straight ahead, keeping her hands folded perfectly over the purse that holds her hidden knife. You can physically see her putting her emotional armor back on. It is a powerful lesson. Sometimes the strongest walls we build are not to keep other people out, but to keep our own messy reality from spilling over and ruining the master plan. Gabriel sees exactly what she is doing. She is desperately trying to glue the fake Clara Hayes personality back together, but it is way too late for that. He is fully planning to rip that fake mask off the second they get inside. The luxury car pulls into the underground garage of his massive high-rise. Gabriel does not even wait for his driver. He shoves his own door open and steps out into the cold concrete garage. He is definitely not playing the perfect gentleman this time, offering zero help as he looks at her with a face made of stone. He orders her into his private elevator, plain and simple. Clara does not say a word, just follows him into the glass elevator, shooting up into the sky. Honestly, this shows that once a massive truth is out in the open, there is absolutely no going back to pretending everything is totally normal. Stick with me, because the showdown is officially starting. They ride up in total silence, the altitude literally making their ears pop. The elevator doors open into Gabriel's massive penthouse. And guys, this place is insane. It is pure, cold billionaire flex energy. Black marble floors, giant windows overlooking Manhattan and Shropshire. It looks gorgeous, but totally dead, like an untouchable fortress rather than an actual home. Gabriel marches right over to his black bar without saying a word. He does not ask what she wants. He just cracks open a ridiculously expensive bottle of whiskey, pours 2 heavy glasses, and spins around to face her. But here is the kicker. He does not hand her the drink. It is a brilliant reminder that in high-stakes power games, even the smallest actions are designed to establish absolute dominance. Gabriel is out here flexing his final boss energy, guys. Let us take a look at this together. He drops his bespoke jacket like it is nothing, unclips his holster, and lets that heavy Glock 19 hit the marble counter with an echoing thud. It is a calculated power move to remind her who runs the city. He tells her to drink, but Clara stands frozen in his cold penthouse. She wears a stunning emerald gown that stands out like a neon sign against the dark room. She refuses to even blink at the whiskey, and honestly, here is a life lesson for you. True power never has to shout to be heard. It just puts the weapon on the table and waits. Gabriel is testing her, but Clara is proving she has absolute ice in her veins. Bro, she really tries to gaslight the Mafia Don right to his face. Clara keeps her voice perfectly smooth, telling him she wants a clear head and will just grab a cab home like this is a normal Tuesday. She even hits him with the classic, "I will see you at the office at 7:30 tomorrow. Gabriel just lets out this harsh, completely dead laugh that echoes off the glass walls. He takes a slow sip of his whiskey, his eyes locked onto her like a predator watching its dinner. He asks if she seriously thinks she is going to the office tomorrow, his voice dropping into this lethal, vibrating purr. Then he starts walking toward her, his footsteps totally silent on the marble floor. Here is a solid life lesson. Once the mask slips, you can never put it back on. You cannot pretend everything is normal when you just showed your whole hand. Gabriel stops 2 feet away, completely towering over her. He is absolutely cooking her right now, asking if she plans to slap on those fake glasses and fetch his coffee like she did not just go full action hero. He gets in her space, breathing in her scent of silk and jasmine. He calls out every crazy thing she did, threatening to slice a Russian boss, speaking elite underground Bratva slang, and reading the armed enforcers perfectly. She played that guy like a cheap violin. Clara holds her ground, but her pulse is jumping wildly in her neck. Listen, the life lesson here is simple. True competence is the hardest thing to hide. You can fake being average, but when the pressure hits, your real skills will always betray you. Clara tries to play it cool, claiming she just handles complications, but Gabriel absolutely loses it. He shatters the quiet with this massive roar of pure dominance, making her flinch hard. He grabs her bare shoulder, his burning hot hand contrasting with the freezing vibe of the room. His grip is tight enough to trap her. Bro is seriously triggered, and honestly, you cannot blame him. He gets right in her face and reminds her that for 2 straight years, she managed his encrypted files, offshore bank accounts, and safe houses. She knows every single dark secret of his business. The life lesson here is harsh but true. Trust is a beautiful thing, but giving a stranger the keys to your entire kingdom is a fatal mistake. He let someone hold his wallet and his life, and now he is realizing he has no idea who she actually is. He calls her a ghost who infiltrated the very center of his empire. His thumb brushes her collarbone in this terrifyingly gentle way that screams pure danger. He demands to know if she is a Fed, Interpol, or a cartel plant. But Clara finally cracks. She drops the polite secretary act entirely, demanding he let go of her. She shoves her hands against his chest, but the guy is built like a brick wall and does not move an inch. She snaps back that she is not a federal mole. She only came to his company because it was the one place safe enough to hide out. It just goes to show you a brutal life lesson. Sheer desperation will make you knock on the devil's door. When you have nowhere else to go, even a ruthless mafia syndicate starts looking like a cozy, safe haven. She chose the belly of the beast just to stay alive. Gabriel narrows his eyes, scanning her face for lies and asking what she is hiding from. Right then, all the fight just drains out of Clara. Her arms drop. She stares out at the bright city skyline that she used as camouflage and admits she is hiding from the people who slaughtered her family. Her voice is completely hollow. Gabriel loosens his grip, and the air in the room instantly turns to ice. You can practically see his brain working like a supercomputer, scanning through a decade of brutal mob history to fact-check her story. It is a stark reminder of a very real-life lesson. Everyone you meet is carrying a heavy burden you know absolutely nothing about. The person pouring your coffee could be fighting a quiet war. Gabriel is finally seeing the crushed survivor hiding underneath that flawless secretary disguise. Gabriel demands to know who she really is, his voice dangerously low. Clara looks right at him, her amber eyes totally unguarded now. She drops the biggest plot twist of the century, saying her real name is Clarissa Romano. Total silence hits the room. Gabriel literally takes a step back, feeling a cold shockwave hit his chest. He is looking at this woman in the emerald dress in a completely different, terrifying way. The Romano name is legendary and commands absolute respect on the streets. And this brings us to a solid life lesson. Your history will always catch up to you, no matter what name you wear. You can change your clothes, your job, and your zip code, but you can never outrun your own bloodline. The past is always waiting right around the corner, ready to demand its due. Here is the law drop, guys. For 50 years, the Romano family absolutely ruled Chicago. They were old school, untouchable, and controlled everything. But 3 years ago, the Moretti cartel rolled in with heavy cartel money and wiped the entire lobby in a single night. On a freezing February evening, they took out the boss, his sons, and all his top guys. The news called it a mob war, but the streets knew it was a total extermination. Everyone thought the royal bloodline was completely dead. Which leads to a crucial life lesson. No empire lasts forever, no matter how thick the walls are built. You can be on top of the world today, pulling all the strings, and lose everything by tomorrow morning. Complacency is the silent killer of kings, and the Romanos learned that the hard way. Gabriel says her name, tasting the heavy metal of it. He remembers the youngest daughter was supposed to be in London. Clarissa gives a dark little snort and corrects him. She was actually flying back to Chicago for her father's birthday, but a snowstorm delayed her flight. By the time she landed, her whole family was gone. Gabriel stares at her as the puzzle pieces violently snap together. The Morettis put a $5 million bounty on her head to wipe out the final heir. It is crazy to think about, but the life lesson here is profound. Sometimes your biggest frustrations are actually sealing your life. A delayed flight feels like a massive inconvenience in the moment, but the universe might just be keeping you out of the crossfire. That storm was her ultimate saving grace. Clarissa lifts her chin, proudly stating they are still hunting her. She needed a sanctuary, a place where the hitman would not dare step foot. Gabriel's eyes go completely dark as he realizes she chose his syndicate on purpose. She explains her genius strategy. His crew is the only one powerful enough to rival the cartel, so she hid right behind his massive wall of armed guards. She used his own standing army as a personal meat shield. Gabriel is furious, spitting out that she used him. But honestly, the life lesson here is harsh and necessary. True survival requires you to use every single resource at your disposal. When your life is on the line, there is no room for playing fair or asking nicely. You have to be smart, ruthless, and willing to do whatever it takes to see tomorrow. Clarissa fires right back, and the true Mafia princess finally wakes up. She steps toward him, yelling that she did her job perfectly. She doubled his company revenue, caught thieves he missed, and never asked for a dime more than her regular salary. She calls it a fair trade. But Gabriel absolutely loses his mind. He screams that it was a massive security breach, closing the distance between them in 2 giant steps. He backs her up hard against the massive floor-to-ceiling glass window, with the glittering abyss of New York City right behind her. And honestly, here is a vital life lesson. Hard work never erases a foundation built on a massive lie. You can be the best worker in the room, but if your presence puts everyone in danger, the good deeds do not cancel out the threat. Gabriel slams his heavy hands against the glass on both sides of her head, completely caging her in. Whoosh! His hot breath ghosts over her face as he snarls about the danger she dragged into his house. If the cartel finds out, they will bomb his clubs and start a literal street war. Clarissa is pressed flat against the freezing glass, her heart hammering wildly, gasping that nobody knows she is here. But Gabriel roars back that Viktor Ivanov absolutely knows. You and I need to pause here and look at this life lesson. You can never control the ripple effects of your own secrets. You might think you have everything contained perfectly in a neat little box, but one wrong move can cause a tidal wave that destroys everything around you. Her secret is out, and the tsunami is coming fast. Gabriel lays out the brutal truth. The Russian boss watched her move like a trained killer and speak elite gang slang. It is only a matter of time before he matches her face to the dead Romano princess and sells that juicy intel to the cartel for prime real estate. Clarissa's breath hitches. For the very first time, pure panic flashes in her eyes. She let her ego slip tonight, and it ruined her cover. She whispers that she has a go bag and will leave the country so she does not bring the war to his door. The life lesson here is heavy. Pride will always be your absolute most expensive mistake. She wanted to show off her skills for just 1 single minute to prove a point, and that tiny moment of ego just cost her the only safe haven she had left in the entire world. Gabriel stares at her trembling red lips and the terrified pulse jumping in her neck. He sees how that emerald silk clings to her, and this violent, totally irrational, possessive instinct claws its way up his throat. She is literally a walking target who could burn his entire criminal empire to ashes. But as he looks at her, he knows with terrifying certainty that she is not walking out that door. He drops his voice into a dark, gravelly whisper and tells her she is not going anywhere. She is confused, but he warns her that if she runs, the Russians will find her. The beautiful life lesson here is this: we do not get to choose who we feel protective over. The heart simply decides. Logic goes out the window the second you realize you deeply care about someone's survival. Let us kick things off right here, you and I, because this scene is absolute fire. Gabriel literally pins Clarissa against the cold glass window, getting right up in her space. He tells her straight up that if the Morettas find her, she is practically a ghost in a week. She wanted his protection, right? She wanted to hide behind his massive walls. So he leans in, whispering right by her ear, giving her chills, and drops the ultimate line about her getting promoted. Boom. Plot twist right out the gate. By morning, the sun is just blasting over the East River into this crazy expensive penthouse. Clarissa has been awake all night, pacing around this massive room full of white silk and steel. It is supposed to be a safe house, but honestly, it feels like a high-altitude prison cell. Picture the tension here. That massive mahogany door is locked tight from the outside, and his heavy hitter, Mateo, has been standing guard the entire night. Clarissa could actually see his shadow creeping under the doorframe. Suddenly, the deadbolt clicks, and she totally freezes up. In walks Gabriel, trading his sharp tuxedo for a dark charcoal suit. No tie, looking way too relaxed. He is holding 2 hot mugs of coffee, completely flipping the script. For 2 straight years, she was the one handing him his morning brew like clockwork. Now, the literal king of the New York underworld is playing room service. Sometimes in life, the roles we play can flip in a heartbeat, and you just have to roll with the new reality. Gabriel steps inside, his cold eyes sweeping right over her. Clarissa is still rocking that stunning green designer gown, but now it is totally wrecked. The fabric is wrinkled, the bottom is torn from her pacing around like a caged animal, and her hair is just a wild mess of dark curls. But honestly, she looks absolutely captivating in that chaotic way. Gabriel sets her coffee on the glass table and takes a sip of his own, telling her it is black with 2 sugars, exactly how she always makes it. She is not having any of it, accusing him of straight-up kidnapping her. Gabriel just leans back against the door, crossing those massive arms, and calmly corrects her. He calls it a quarantine. He casually drops the bomb that he spent the last 8 hours completely tearing apart, the fake flat she worked so hard to build. Absolute savage behavior. Gabriel tells her he had his top intelligence guys run a massive background check on her fake identity, Clara Hayes. He asks her what they found, and she admits they found nothing. Gabriel is totally fired up now. He lists off her fake social security number and that forged birth certificate from a conveniently burned down town. Her whole digital history was so boring, it practically screamed witness protection. He warns her that her expensive cover is completely cooked. The Russian boss, Viktor Ivanov, is already making calls, and the Bratva will soon know exactly who she really is. Clarissa begs him to let her bounce. She has secret offshore cash and passports ready to go. She wants to run to Europe so she does not drag his entire syndicate into a massive mob war with the Morettis. But Gabriel shuts that down instantly, his voice dropping into this deep, terrifying tone that demands total respect. He steps right up to her, closing the distance until they are inches apart, and you can literally feel the tension radiating off him. He explains that Victor is already furious over some drama down at the Baltimore ports. If the Russian boss figures out Gabriel is hiding the very last living Romano heir, he will not just snitch to the Morettis, he will team up with them. They will launch a full-scale attack on Gabriel just to get to her. Clarissa looks terrified, thinking she is a dead woman walking, but Gabriel goes completely soft for a second. He reaches out, his huge hand gently holding her face, brushing away the exhaustion under her eyes like she is glass. Listen, we need to pause and appreciate this dynamic. It is wild how gentle he is acting when the guy is a known lethal weapon. He promises her she is not going to die today. Why? Because her fake identity just officially quit her job, and the real Clarissa Romano is about to step out of the shadows. Clarissa pulls away, looking at him like he has lost his mind. She knows if she goes public, the Moretti crew will send every hitman they have strapped to Manhattan. But Gabriel just gives her this dark, predatory smile. He wants them to try. He says they will just hit a massive, unbreakable wall of his own heavy artillery. He plans to hide her right out in the open. She asks how, and that is when he pulls a dark blue velvet box from his jacket and snaps it open. Plot twist incoming. Inside that little box is a diamond ring so ridiculously massive and perfect that it practically blinds her, throwing rainbows all over the walls. We are talking a 10-carat emerald-cut diamond set in heavy platinum. Clarissa completely stops breathing. Gabriel tells her the absolute best way to protect a valuable asset is to claim it for yourself. His voice drops, getting super possessive. He lays out the strategy perfectly. The rival cartel might be ruthless, but they follow old-school rules. Taking out a rival soldier is just business, but attacking a mafia boss's wife? That is a declaration of total, unforgiving war. Sometimes the strongest shield you can ever build is just changing the rules of the game so your enemies are too terrified to even step onto the board. And that is a war their main enemy is too broke to handle right now. Clarissa stares at the massive rock, her genius brain doing the math. She thinks he wants a fake engagement, but Gabriel corrects her fast. He wants a very public blood oath broadcast to every single enemy in the country. He grabs her left hand, and his grip is absolutely ironclad. He slides that heavy platinum ring right onto her finger, and of course, it is a perfect fit. To her, the weight of it feels like a total shackle. He tells her this is the price for the sanctuary she begged for. She has to wear his ring, stand by him, and sleep in his bed. She has to become the ultimate queen of his empire. If anybody wants to take a shot at her, they have to put a bullet through his dead body first. Pure boss energy. Clarissa looks up from the diamond and locks eyes with him. His gaze is burning with this crazy, obsessive fire that totally changes the game. This is not just some calculated tactical move anymore. He is looking at her with pure, primal hunger. The quiet, invisible assistant is gone forever, and Gabriel has decided he is keeping the fierce survivor who took her place. She whispers, asking what happens if she just says no. He leans in close, breathing right against her ear, and tells her she will not refuse. She is a survivor, and right now, he is the only lifeboat she has left. Boom. The very next day, the news of his sudden engagement hits the press. It sends absolute shockwaves ripping through Wall Street and the entire criminal underworld. Everyone is totally scrambling. Now, you and I both know how the media works when a billionaire boss suddenly gets hitched. The tabloids are going absolutely crazy, trying to dig up dirt on the mystery brunette who finally locked down the most dangerous bachelor in the city. His corporate PR team drops one single, super vague statement about the wedding, giving zero details about who she actually is. It is an absolute masterclass in psychological warfare. Gabriel is dangling the bait, making all his enemies panic and rush to find answers. 3 nights later, the stage is set for the big reveal at this massive charity gala at the Pierre Hotel. This place is totally neutral ground, packed with shady politicians, filthy rich billionaires, and all the secret heavy hitters from the syndicates. The tension is wild. This gala is the ultimate stage to show off his new queen. Clarissa is standing in front of a massive mirror, looking completely different from the quiet girl she was just 72 hours ago. Those baggy sweaters and nerdy glasses are history. Tonight, she is geared up for war. She is rocking a custom, skin-tight black velvet gown that covers her front but leaves her entire back totally exposed down to her spine. She has this heavy heirloom diamond choker drawing all the attention to her sharp features, and her hair is pulled back tight. She straight up looks like a lethal weapon. Gabriel walks into the room, fixing his silk bow tie, and just completely freezes. He stops dead in his tracks, his eyes slowly taking in every single detail of her reflection in the big mirror. The possessive heat in his eyes is so intense it feels like a physical weight in the room. He steps up right behind her, putting his huge hands on her bare waist and lightly tracing her spine. He whispers that his security team has the building locked down, leaving a quick burning kiss right behind her ear. Clarissa shivers, secretly hating how much her body reacts to his touch. Then he drops the bad news. The Russian boss is confirmed on the list, and Christian Moretti just landed at the airport an hour ago. Clarissa feels her blood freeze solid. Her biggest enemy is literally in New York. Gabriel spins her around to face him, looking totally victorious. Hay tells her the enemy took the bait because he cannot afford to look weak while the underworld rumor mill is going crazy. Stick with me here because this is where everything reaches a boiling point. Moretti is showing up just to see if the rumors are true and the Romano heir is back from the dead. Clarissa looks dead serious, knowing if he recognizes her, he will try to end her tonight. So she casually reaches for her black velvet purse, which happens to hold a freshly sharpened titanium blade. Gabriel just smirks, brushing his tuxedo jacket aside to show off his own heavy firepower strapped to his ribs. He tells her it is time to show the city what happens when you corner a Romano. They finally step out into this massive ballroom full of rich people, fake smiles, and flowing champagne. The second they start walking down that grand staircase, the entire room goes dead silent. Absolute chills, guys. Every single head in that room snaps right to them. The whispering starts up instantly, like a massive wave of gossip crashing down. But Clarissa is serving absolute main character energy, keeping her head high and totally owning that boss vibe. She lets Gabriel guide her through the crowd, ignoring the snobby glares and the creepy stares from those mob bosses in their expensive suits. Gabriel leans in close, acting like he is whispering something romantic, but drops the real intel. 2 o'clock, Ivanova. Clarissa plays it totally cool, just a smooth glance to the right. Viktor Ivanov is by the champagne tower, his scarred face turning ghost white. The guy is absolutely terrified because the math just clicked in his head. Look, here is a quick life lesson for you. Your past will always catch up to you when you least expect it, especially if you crossed the wrong people. Clarissa smiles for the cameras like a total pro and whispers back that Ivanov is trying to sneak out. Gabriel tells her to let the coward run and keep her eyes on the main entrance. And guys, they do not have to wait long at all. 10 minutes later, those heavy oak doors fly wide open and the vibe in the room instantly drops 10 degrees. Standing right there, backed up by 4 massive goons, is Christian Moretti. This kid is young, vicious, and rocking a bright white tuxedo jacket that basically begs for somebody to ruin it. Christian sweeps his dark eyes over the crowd, totally ignoring the rich politicians until he locks right onto Gabriel. Then his gaze slides over to the absolute queen, standing right by his side. Life lesson right here, arrogance is usually just a very loud mask for a weak hand, and this guy is sweating, Clarissa does not even blink. She stares dead into the eyes of the exact guy who ordered the hit on her father and her brothers. All that fear she carried around for 3 long years is completely gone, replaced by a hardcore thirst for absolute payback. Christian totally loses his smug look. He stops dead in his tracks, looking like he just saw a ghost, because he finally recognizes those amber eyes. He thought he wiped her whole family off the map, but nope. Gabriel drops a twisted smile and jokes that the Grim Reaper just showed up. Christian tries to play off and whispers to his main thug, who instantly reaches inside his jacket for a piece. Clarissa catches it immediately and warns Gabriel. Honestly, if there is a lesson to learn today, it is that you should never underestimate somebody who has absolutely nothing left to lose. Gabriel does not even turn his head. He trusts her call completely when she spots a sniper up on the balcony at 3 o'clock. He just yells for her to get down, and absolute chaos drops on the room. Before that sniper can even pull the trigger, Gabriel whips out his gun and blasts the ceiling twice. He completely shatters this giant crystal chandelier right over the heads of Christian's squad. People are screaming their lungs out as a literal ton of glass and metal comes crashing down. Clarissa dives behind a marble pillar, ripping her fancy velvet dress, while Gabriel covers her with his own body. Bullets start flying everywhere, tearing up the stage and shredding the ice sculptures. Quick lesson for everyone. When things hit the fan, trust your team, because having somebody watch your back is the only way you survive. Christian's goons are just spraying bullets everywhere, trying to lock them down. But Gabriel's security team is already kicking in the doors, turning this fancy party into a messy, point-blank war zone. Gabriel yells over the crazy loud gunfire that they need to move fast. He grabs her hand, pulls her up, and points to the kitchen doors 20 yards out. Out of nowhere, one of Christian's guys pops up from behind a flip table, aiming a rifle right at Gabriel's back. Gabriel is totally out of ammo. His slide is locked, 0 time to reload. But Clarissa does not even flinch. She snaps into action, pops open her little black purse, and whips out a titanium blade that catches the smoky light. You and I should take notes right here. The lesson is that preparation beats panic every single time. Always keep a hidden trick ready. With insane, smooth moves you only get from growing up in a mob family, she drives that blade right into the guy's neck, twisting it like an absolute pro. The dude drops his rifle, choking as blood goes flying all over those clean white tablecloths. Clarissa pulls the knife back out, her eyes blazing with this wild, intense energy, and her fancy black dress is just covered in red. Gabriel is staring at her, breathing hard through the smoke and the screaming. The quiet little secretary, who spent 2 years filing his boring paperwork, just dropped a trained cartel hitman like it was absolutely nothing. Honestly, he has never been more hooked on a woman in his entire life. The biggest takeaway in this whole mess: people are rarely who they pretend to be on the surface, so you better respect the quiet ones in the room. Gabriel pulls her right against his chest as his guys lock down the area, and he actually jokes, telling her to remind him never to ask her to fetch his coffee again. It is a total boss moment. Outside, crazy loud police sirens are already screaming through the freezing New York night, echoing off the huge buildings down Fifth Avenue. Gabriel kicks open these heavy metal doors into the hotel's massive kitchen, dragging Clarissa inside. The cooking staff ran for their lives a long time ago. They left behind flipped-over carts of expensive food and big boiling pots of seafood soup that makes the whole room smell wild. Stick with me here, because this shows you that no matter how rich or powerful the setting is, chaos humbles everybody exactly the same way. When the bullets start flying, the fancy caviar hits the floor. Mateo is already on standby in the alley down on 61st Street, revving the engine of their armored SUV like an absolute beast. The back door is wide open and ready. Gabriel basically shoves Clarissa into the dark back seat and dives in after her. He screams to hit the gas just as bullets from Christian's leftover thugs start slamming off the bulletproof glass. Mateo steps on it, and that massive truck peels out, tires screaming against the street as they disappear into the crazy Manhattan traffic. They leave the total disaster of that charity party in the dust. Once they are safe inside that quiet, armored tank, the adrenaline wears off and hits them both like a ton of bricks. It is a solid reminder that you can outrun the danger, but your body always keeps the score. You always have to face the crash eventually. Clarissa just collapses back into those fancy leather seats, breathing super heavy. Her designer dress is totally wrecked, ripped at the bottom, and covered in the dark blood of that cartel guy. She is still gripping that little knife so tight her knuckles are completely white. Gabriel leans over to her, his massive chest moving up and down fast. He reaches out and gently wraps his big, rough hands around hers, carefully taking the bloody weapon away. He tosses it onto the other seat and barks out, asking if she took a bullet. His eyes are just racing over her in the dark, desperately checking for injuries. You and I are going to look at this together and see something real. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones holding on the tightest, and they just need someone safe to help them finally let go of the weapon. Clarissa takes a breath and says she is totally fine, staring down at hands covered in someone else's mess. She asks about Christian, and Gabriel sounds absolutely disgusted. He ruins his slick hair by running a hand through it, saying the kid bailed out the back while his guys took the heat. But Christian lost his crew and his big advantage. Everyone knows she is not a ghost anymore. She is officially a Castile. Now, to the normal world, this whole mess gets swept under the rug. By 3 a.m., Gabriel's top-tier lawyer, a guy who handles all the shady billionaires, is already feeding a totally fake story to the cops. This brings up a tough but true life lesson. The official truth is often just a matter of who has enough money to buy the loudest megaphone. In this city, the rich and powerful always write their own history. Thanks to a mountain of perfectly placed bribes, the whole shootout goes down in the files as a messy jewel heist pulled off by some random gang. The media swallows it whole, keeping Gabriel's syndicate looking perfectly clean to the cops. But down in the gritty underworld, the real story spreads like absolute wildfire. From the Russian mobs to the Yakuza crews, everyone suddenly knows that Gabriel just locked down the last surviving Romano heir as his literal queen, and she is every bit as deadly as he is. Gabriel just stares at her in the dark back seat. That flawless, invisible girl who used to just hand him coffee is 100% gone. It just goes to show you that a person can hide their true nature for years, but the fire inside them will always burn the disguise away when the time is right. Sitting right there in her place is a literal Mafia princess covered in blood, a woman who just wrecked a guy without a single second of hesitation to keep Gabriel safe. He gets that dark, intense look in his eyes again, totally burning up with it, and tells her she saved his life. Clarissa looks right back at him, the streetlights making her amber eyes look fierce, and says he gave her a safe place when the whole world wanted her dead. She tells him to consider her debt officially paid, but Gabriel is not having that at all. He leans in close, dropping his voice low, and tells her they are way past settling debts. He straight up says she belongs to him now. Let me tell you a little lesson about loyalty right here. Real bonds are never built on keeping score. They are built on surviving the absolute worst together. He drops the ultimate line, telling her he belongs to her too. He does not even wait for a green light. Gabriel grabs the back of her neck and pulls her in for a massive kiss. This is not some sweet movie moment. It is pure, explosive relief mixed with 2 years of totally bottled up tension. It tastes like expensive champagne, gunsmoke, and crazy adrenaline. Clarissa gasps, immediately grabbing his ripped jacket to pull him closer. For 2 whole years, she played it safe, burying her real feelings behind fake glasses and boring sweaters. But now the dam is completely shattered. She kisses him back with wild, hungry energy, matching his boss vibe step for step. We are going to wrap up with one simple lesson today. You can run from who you are for a while, but your true passion always demands to be felt. Gabriel pulls her tight against his chest. That massive platinum ring on her finger presses hard into his shoulder, proving their crazy new alliance was sealed in blood and gunpowder. Catching their breath, they rest their foreheads together, completely synced up. Clarissa whispers that Christian Moretti is never going to back down. Her genius brain is already warning that he will head to Chicago and dial up the cartels for backup. Gabriel just gives this absolutely unhinged smirk and says to let him try, because Moretti has zero clue what kind of monster he just woke up. The big takeaway here: never underestimate the power of a solid partnership. When you have the right loyal person standing by your side, you can face down absolutely any storm the world tries to throw your way. Gabriel lays out the master plan, calling a massive meeting with the commission tomorrow. They will merge the families. Instead of playing defense, they are going straight for Moretti's throat. Clarissa stares back, soaking in the wild energy of the man who just turned her into the deadliest queen in the country. She is done hiding. With a totally terrifying smile, she agrees to burn his entire empire to ashes. Cut to their ride, pulling into the secret underground garage, heavy steel gates slamming shut to lock out the city chaos. It really shows you that true growth happens the moment you stop running from who you are. Sometimes you have to burn down your own deep insecurities to finally step into the real power you were always meant to hold. Gabriel steps out of the ride and hands her out like royalty. Clarissa takes it, her heels echoing on the concrete. She walks tall, oozing this freezing, regal swagger as she enters her new domain. The weak version of her is totally dead, and the beast she morphed into is stunning to watch. Seriously, what a wild ride. She went from an ignored secretary grabbing coffee to a savage mafia queen taking out hitmen in a shredded designer dress. The chemistry with Gabriel is absolutely off the charts. It perfectly proves a vital life lesson. Never judge a book by its cover or underestimate the quiet ones in the background. The people society ignores often have the hidden strength to completely flip the board and run the entire game. Be honest, did any of you actually see that savage betrayal by the Moretti family coming? Or that absolutely insane shootout scene at the hotel? My jaw is still on the floor. If this massive mob drama had your heart racing as much as mine, you need to smash that like button right now. Hit subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss our deep dives into these crazy revenge stories. Papa, send this to your friends who live for those juicy hidden identity twists. Drop a comment and tell me what your favorite part of Clarissa's wild glow-up was. The biggest thing to remember from her journey is that you hold the pen to your own life story, so never let anyone else write your final chapter. Stay safe out there, trust your gut, and I will definitely catch you in the next crazy breakdown. Gabriel Castillo's greatest shock is muitas tu każdy MSB on the spol bibidris. Accounts, to personal structures. Perspective to show This part of the story teaches an important lesson about trust. Trust cannot fully exist where the truth is hidden. Has reasons for lying. She is not trying to destroy Gabriel, she is trying to survive. But the effect of the still Gabriel's protection was taken with his informed consent. In real life, this is a valuable lesson. People often hide the truth because they believe their reasons are justified. They may hide their past, their fears, their debts, their mistakes, or their intentions. Sometimes they hide things to protect themselves. Sometimes they hide things to protect others. But secrets have consequences. Even understandable secrets can damage each trust when they are finally revealed. The story does not make the issue simple. Clara is not a villain for hiding. Gabriel is not wrong for being angry. Both responses are human. This complexity makes the lesson meaningful. Truth is not always safe, but relationships built without truth are unstable. Gabriel's anger comes from more than pride. He realizes that Clara's hidden identity could bring war to his doorstep. Her past is not just personal history. It creates danger for everyone around her. This teaches that our private choices can affect others, especially when we become close to them. If we allow someone into our life, we must eventually trust them with the truth that could affect them. Clara's fear is also understandable. She believes that revealing herself could lead to death. Her secret is not small. It is tied to trauma, survival, and a bounty on her head. That is why the story teaches not only honesty, but timing and courage. Truth requires wisdom, but it cannot be avoided forever. The shift in the story happens when Clara finally says her same Clarissa Romano. Names matter. By speaking her name, she stops being only a disguise and begins becoming whole again. Gabriel can finally respond to the real woman, not the mask. For viewers, the lesson is clear. At some point, the people standing beside you deserve the truth, especially if your truth may change their lives too.